I'm here. I'm watching the enforcement of the curfew. I'm coming.
Thank you. All right, I'm starting the live stream, everyone.
You're getting closer, Andrew. Yes, something's not right. See if you can figure it out.
I'm here. I'm watching the enforcement of the curfew. I'm coming.
Thank you. All right, I'm starting the live stream, everyone. Having Linda makes me want to be here because she's
Getting closer, Andrew.
What are you guys whispering about me?
No, I'm just saying, this has been, I couldn't believe I'm in this little weird training after school with this person from LA who does these trainings for like thousands of people. And we're like, no, there's 5 of us here in this little classroom. We have really simple questions for you. We don't want this little pump, this big show. And all this time, we didn't know all this thing was happening. And we end the little training at 4:15. And we're like, oh my gosh, the country is under siege.
Literally.
So.
Yeah, I got home and my friend and my cousin in England had posted something about was democracy going down the tubes here in the US. I didn't have any idea what he was talking about because I'd been out of the house since 12:30. So I just gave him a general answer. And anyway, it went on from there for about an hour. We went back and forth. And then I figured out, oh, that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Horrible.
Embarrassing.
Yeah.
All righty, Daddy.
Lead us, Jeff.
I am leading you. Any comments on the December minutes?
You should cut it out. I've got to cut up. I got to break up a cat fight. You, out this way. Yeah.
I didn't see anything, Jeff. But I did a skimpy look.
3, 2, 1.
Yeah. All good for me.
Any objections to accepting them as written?
No.
Okay. Any prospects? Come on, folks. You're all getting out there in those social situations, inviting people. Yeah, never mind. Okay.
Well, are we looking, it's mostly the Rockport person that we're looking for, right?
Correct.
Is
We
that
need a
true?
Rockport. Yes, correct. We need a Rockport person.
Does West Rockport count?
Of course, Andrew. I'm West Rockport.
Of course.
Okay, sounds good. I got another one in mind, but I got to ask him first.
Not Trevor, right?
No,
Yeah, because Trevor said not now.
Yeah.
Let's see, going to committee reports, Maritime Farms, Shirt Tail. Quick reminder, the question is what's the process now that the town has voted okay to move forward with Shirt Tail and properties? Maritime is ready to go. The status is not quite what I thought it was. I talked to Jeremy, and not all of the easements have been settled. Well, they've been settled, but not formally. So they have to formally document the easements on the other couple of properties where they already have a verbal agreement, but they just haven't dotted the I's and crossed the T's. So that's the next step. Jeremy isn't worried about that. He is a little confused, and I am too, because that project is a locally administrated project, an LAP, I think is what it's called. And that means that at the end of this process, where all the easements are settled and the design and engineering and meetings with the butters has all happened, At that point, this is kind of news to me, it goes back to MDOT. And then MDOT sends out for bid proposals. Now, if you remember, the idea is that that bid proposal and Maritime's bid proposal go out together. So Jeremy said he's gonna meet with Audra, because Audra's the MDOT contact for Maritime, and figure out how to do this. He's not sure. So I'm gonna stay on that, but that's the news. Does anybody have anything to add to that? It's really kind of.
The question is, why does MDOT even factor in?
It's their money.
But so are many other projects that are their money that they don't have to sign off in the same way.
Pretty much every MDOT project that I've been involved with where there's an MDOT grant. No, that's not true. Well, the way it,
So
well, it's not,
actually-
the only other grants I've ever worked with are RTPs. The Maritime Farms grant is call it a Quality Community Programs grant. So it may be administered different, but MDOT did all the engineering. They did everything.
Oh, okay.
It's a state highway.
Yeah,
It's
that's
just,
different. Okay.
Yeah, and with the locally, Allison, have you had another locally administrated project that you've come across?
Sorry, I wasn't really paying attention because I was trying to find the link to the
It's okay.
safety
Do-
forum. So
I can ask the question again. Have you been involved in any other MDOT locally administrated project?
Oh, not,
They're
maybe,
they're-
but not enough to be a
Yeah.
source of good information.
Yeah, they're rare. No, they're
Right.
not, we don't usually do many of them. This is the first one I've ever been involved with, probably the last one too, because the town hasn't enjoyed it. So,
That's what I was.
yeah. So anyway, that's where we are. And I'm going to keep poking and trying to keep this on the front, or at least a medium burner with Jeremy and Audra. That's the best I've got. And that's what I owed you for the update on that. Like, where do we go now? Similarly, well, kind of similarly, it actually went pretty fast. The Lions Club and the drainage issue, that's going to sit there through the winter, all frozen. Beth Ward and David St. Laurent, we're all on the same page. Beth has said, let's do it in the spring. Dave said, yeah, I'll put it on my list. So they're going to redo that with bigger culverts and more proper riprap for the water to,
Good evening. My name's
so that the water is better channeled. That's it, which is pretty cool. So that's moving forward too. And the next one I have is CRMS, and I need your advice on this. This has to do with the Riverwalk along CRMS and how to nudge that forward. Oh, before I go to CRMS, up from Knowlton Street is the wastewater treatment plant. And Jeremy says that he is going to move that forward in the planning, with the planning board, to make it one zone. I think it's like BTR or business B1. And that's important to us because once that happens, then we can have the Riverwalk go closer to the water.
What's
That's
the,
good.
sorry.
Linda?
Yeah, Jeremy said he's having the planning board change the zone in Camden along the river? Is that what's being changed so that we can?
No.
Yeah.
No, in the fall, there was a vote to eliminate one of the transition zones or some of the transition zones in the town to make that more clear, because there's a bazillion of these little transition zones.
Mhm.
And so the town said, yes, let's just consolidate them. And so the next move is to, at the wastewater treatment plant, it's divided in two It has half of it's in the business zone and the other half is in half of it's in business transition and the other half is in village. And so he's going to bring forward to the planning board to make the whole wastewater treatment plant the same zone, not be split in two. Once that happens, that it's under one zone, then my understanding is it'll be a business zone, and under business or business transition, the setback, the normal setback is 25 feet. Under village, it's 75 feet.
How far up does that go? Is it just for the wastewater treatment? Okay.
Yeah, that's a really good question, Linda, because the next one is the school, which I think is zoned village, which is kind of weird. So I don't know if that's going to change, but if it did, that would be great too. But one step at a time. The next one is sorry, Linda.
Well, it's a mixed, I mean, it's a double-edged sword. If you're moving your setback 50 feet closer to the water.
Yeah, but the wastewater treatment plant is already like 20 feet away. In some places, it's really close.
Yeah, but if is that, anyhow, it's a conversation for later, not now.
Yeah, and they're redoing it anyway where it is. They're not changing the footprint. I don't think we're in danger of the wastewater treatment plant moving closer to the water, especially if we're able to put to create a river walk sort of as a barrier so that they can't. That would be really cool. The next one was the middle school. You guys asked me, I think you guys asked me this, I can't remember this, but what I did was I wanted to get clarity on the idea of doing a stormwater, what is it called? Stormwater survey for the middle school. The middle school did not do a stormwater survey. They avoided that because they stayed under 3 acres of impervious surface on their project. And under that particular kind of project, that was their limit. They went right up to it, like right up to it, which is why there's no room in terms of right up to it in terms of impervious surface. 3 acres of impervious surface. I forgot to say that. So they went right up to it, which left no room for the Riverwalk. So my theory was that if we did a stormwater survey and somehow we raised funds for doing that, then we could go beyond 3 acres, which is kind of true. And this is what I talked to Will Gartley about. And he said that it's true that you could go beyond the 3 acres, but it also means that you may have to create some pretty expensive infrastructure in order to do that. It's kind of like I kind of should have thought of that. If the stormwater survey says that you have to have these new runoff and catch basins and all that stuff, then they'll have to do that in order to increase the impervious surface. So it's not just the survey, it's the consequences of the survey and any infrastructure you have to do. So there's that. Allison, you had a question on what I was saying?
A comment. I can wait until the end if you want.
Yeah, I just have a little bit more. The second one is, he suggested that I contact the actual engineers because they now know exactly how close to the 3 acres they've got. Will didn't know, but Oakmark or Oak Point would know that now. So maybe there is enough room. And then he thought we should also ask DEP, how could we do this? And then he thought maybe we should ask Maria Libby, the superintendent, whether she's okay with us doing all this. And those are my questions to you guys.
So.
Wait, Allison was first. No,
Oh.
Andrew. Allison was first. Allison is before Andrew.
Go, Allison.
So, and also just in terms of like trying to make sure that committees stay in the areas that the towns want them to work in. We've been trying to do some work in that area in Camden, and I would say strongly that this is not a helpful area for, or not the right approach for pathways to be helpful. We're actually, one of the main motivations or one of the big components of this National Fish and Wildlife Foundation grant that we've received is to study that entire area back there, because it's kind of like this mishmash of heavily impacted wetlands that are very much impacted by the dam on Knowlton Street. And so it's broadened out that whole channel, made it some areas wetlands that wouldn't normally be. A big component of the study is determining how much sediment has accumulated there beyond what was there naturally, what the natural course of the river was, what the conditions would be if the dam on Knowlton Street were to be removed. And also looking at how this hopefully some kind of river restoration there will facilitate a pathway going back along that area. They've done a bunch of sediment testing. They found it's not contaminated to a concerning degree. We're right in the middle of it. If Pathways wanted to maybe submit some comments or something, just I've shared the Riverwalk master plan and that stuff, but I think the hope is that there could be a lot of changes back there that would be beneficial for the project. And so getting it, also we're doing a big townwide stormwater survey also. So I like the idea of doing a stormwater survey back there, just because there are already some really serious issues with sediment coming across Rawson Ave, and the river turns brown there. And I just think that we should be careful about spending too much energy trying to get a river, figure out exactly where a Riverwalk could go under the existing conditions, because hopefully we're going to learn a bunch from this study. We're going to be able to restore some wetlands. It all goes into our climate change planning, because downtown Camden has this big flooding problem that's going to get worse with the rain. And so it was really easy to qualify for funding in that area. I mean, even an elevated walkway may end up being an option, but I just think it would be better if Pathways didn't push the other approach right now.
Thanks for filling us in on that aspect, Allison. I did watch that a bit last night, that discussion. Andrew, and then Linda, and then Anita.
Question. So if you took the dam out at Knowlton Street, that would make the river much more narrow and give you a lot more room for a pathway, right? Okay. The other question I had was that 3 acres that they've designated for the middle school. So if it comes in, actual survey, 2.5 acres, that could possibly leave enough room for a pathway, like a half an
That's
acre,
correct.
8 feet wide, however feet long. Okay. And if it doesn't, I wonder if things like water retention and water detention ponds can help, so we can get in there. But if that's an issue, that's just an idea, a question to be asked of whoever.
Good point, Andrew.
Wasn't there one other thing? The birds breeding in what bird was it in that part of the river? No longer.
Great blue heron. That's only
No, Old,
There has-
gone, not an
It's
issue.
old. That's old,
Okay.
old news. We're
I mean,
okay.
there is some wading bird habitat there that, you know, is on our radar, but it's not really naturally occurring.
There's
But
two
it's
things.
not, it's not the
Before-
heron rookery that was
Oh,
in the
no.
past. Yeah.
No, it was purported to be, but nobody ever saw it. I just want to make two quick comments before, and then just to clarify. One is the only way we can avoid this 3-acre question, it doesn't matter what happens for mitigation with the river. We are on the property of the middle school. They have maximized perhaps maximized the impervious surface. Even if the river was smaller, it's still the maximum that it can do. So the issue would still remain if we were on the middle school side. Second thing is, our intention, and we can change it, this is a long ways off, was not to put the river right down next to the Riverwalk right next down to the water because of the steepness of the bank at the middle school. And so we're not dealing on the middle school's property with wetlands. We're up above that on very dry land. Anita or Linda, you were next.
Yeah, I keep going back to the 25 versus 75-foot setback. So it concerns me, Allison, when you talk about, you know, the river itself and the wetlands and so forth, and then the town is talking about adjusting the setback, but that's, like I said, that's another issue, but it sort of raises a red flag. To your point, Jeff, we did talk with Maria back when 4 or 5 years ago, or 6. You were in that meeting. I was in that meeting. It was a school.
That's right.
It was a planning meeting. You represented the Pathways. You said Pathways is interested. Will said, oh yeah, we'll incorporate it when it gets built, when the school is built, it's all there, right? So we have history here that it gets to the point of absurdity that we talk about it now. And we went and we walked that in the middle of winter, and then we learned, well, we have to go up. We can't walk along the river. Everybody said, okay, fine, let's walk along the field. That's not impervious. That's a path along the river, up high. So you're automatically set way back from the river. You just have to cross the school land. So it seems like a totally fine idea to talk to Maria and say, hey, what are your thoughts at this point? Her school is built at this point. So there may be more generosity on the part of school administrators and the school board to, welcoming a pathway in the back. I mean, it's such a minor thing. It really is.
Yeah, it really is, Linda. Thanks. Anita, did you want to speak?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Allison if she wouldn't mind reiterating this grant that you spoke of with regard to the wetlands. I'm taking notes, and I just wanted to get the specifics down as to, has it been granted, who from, to do what, when, etc.
Oh, do you want me to maybe send you a press release after? Because it's the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation. It's a coastal resilience planning grant to study the McGonagall watershed for flood resiliency and habitat restoration opportunities. $149,000. We're about halfway through. The public input component is going to begin hopefully in the next month or so.
Is that something that the Pathways Committee would be providing input about?
Yeah, I talked about the Pathways Committee and the Riverwalk and all of that stuff in the grant application. So it's certainly something that you could be involved with. I did understand Jeff's point. It would be helpful to maybe know is it drawn somewhere exactly where you're hoping that the path can go up above? I've never really given up on the idea of it being down there. I know it could be expensive, but it could also be really cool to have some kind of elevated walkway or something through that whole area potentially. But if you've already identified a path up above, that's, the compromise, is that drawn somewhere?
It is. Anita, can you mute?
Sorry.
What we did is Linda was right. We walked, at that time, Jeff Senders, is that right? Was working for Gartley and Dorsey, and he walked it with us, or with a couple of us, and said that the idea of doing a side cut on that bank with a pathway was a really bad idea.
Oh,
because
yeah,
it would create a
think we do that.
hugely unstable situation. And so he recommended, because of costs, to go up above, which would be basically, if you just think of, it is, I'll show you, it is, I'll send you a map, okay? It is shown right on the edge of the field, just next to the athletic fields. It just goes right up there, and then suddenly drops down to the river at the end of their property, at the upstream side of their property.
But you
So,
basically have to be touching the back of that school building then.
no, it drops down before that. It starts going down.
Okay,
I actually think
Yeah.
this is a conversation that,
yeah.
what
But
next
yeah.
step is.
So the issue for this conversation, just two crux issues. One is the 3-acre impervious surface exists anywhere on their property, whether this path was along the road, along the river, anywhere where their property, within their property lines. So I think it's great. And I totally agree, Anita, that pathways should be part of this public hearing, just to reinforce, it never hurts, Allison, our position. And Margot is next, and then Helen.
My question was really, and not having a big picture, was there any reclamation in the development? So when we talk about the 3 acres, are we talking about, we stayed within the footprint of what's been, or have we added to that footprint and reclaimed? I haven't heard any of I know nothing about the reclamation end of all this development.
I can only say it's a little hocus pocus to me, but I totally trust Will. In fact, there are two properties involved here that were combined under one project heading, but because they were combined, they still fall under the 3-acre maximum, because I pursued that because, hey, if there's 2 properties, couldn't we have 6 acres? No, you can't do that either. It has something to do with the scope of the project. And I don't know, I can ask about the sort of, when you say reclaimed, I'm thinking you mean disturbed surface or something like that. I can ask that question, but this 3-acre thing has come up also when I tried to work with the Y. They had the same issue. The Y they ran right up next to the 98, 99, 97%, whatever it is, that number is. And there was nothing left for a path.
Well, the
there
other,
either.
and so this comes to my question of, a path, if you look at a lot of areas, pathways can be built without impervious surfaces. They can be, and I know it's more expensive. I get all that, but it can also be, and if we look at other places, they can actually be reclamation sites as well.
And that's what connects to this grant. That's what I was sort of trying to say, that so if you're improving certain things, then you can do other things in conjunction.
That's the point.
That's how the middle school, they managed to actually get a little closer to the river by saying that they stabilized this one bank. But yeah, I mean, we could improve some habitat so that's why I want to make sure that it gets, and if you could even write this up, Jeff, this whole thing about the impervious surface conundrum, then I could submit that to Interfluve as they're studying this area and have them just have that in the back of their mind about whether there would be solutions.
I think Helen and then Andrew.
Yeah, well, my question is, sort of what Margot said, why does it why does the pathway have to be an impervious surface? I mean, you've got the one that, over here on Route 90, I forget the one that goes up through the woods, the field.
Erickson?
Yes, Erickson.
That's an impervious surface.
It is?
Yep, it's stone dust.
Anything that
Sure
you
looks like
pound
dirt
the,
to me.
well, no, if you pound the dirt down versus if you have a raised boardwalk, it's a very different situation.
Well, I'm just saying, I mean, just a dirt path through there. Why would that count as an impervious surface? It's dirt.
Yeah.
Water goes
I
through it.
I think the only one works, there are a couple, as I point out. The other one that works is wood chips or wood
Yeah.
mulch.
Yeah,
that
Erickson,
works.
for last time I was out there, it's been years, was wood chips and dirt. I mean, we're not
Andrew-
talking about putting a tar path down the road, are we?
Andrew,
That was my same question and comment, that why can't it be an impervious surface or made impervious? So we don't have to abide by that 3-acre deal.
you mean pervious, right?
No.
Yeah, why can't it be pervious?
Yeah,
Yes.
I meant pervious versus impervious.
Yeah.
Linda,
Just as we're winding this up, I really do think it's important, Jeff, that you reach out to Maria and have an initial conversation while Allison and that project is underway too. I mean, that will come in a different conversation with her, but just to let her know that we haven't given up on this idea.
I think I'm still there too, and I will go around the room again to ask other people's opinion, a final opinion about this. Because, hang on, I lost my thread here. There may be a non-issue if we simply ask the engineers. We may be at like 2.75 or 2.8 in terms of impervious surface. So we may even have a non-issue. So we don't have to go to the Fish and Wildlife grant, because we've solved it. And when you guys get done, and maybe we can do it as an improvement, but at least we know it's just an informational thing. We're not acting, we're trying to gather information so we can plan better in the future. So I still think that, like, hey, Maria, would you, is this okay so we can find this out? Just big picture in terms of additional impervious surface related to the school. So I'm still there. I haven't changed my mind, but I love the improvement angle. So Richard, where are you? Should I talk to Maria? Not.
I think you should, but yeah, just not in too much detail, but just to make sure she's aware that where the Riverwalk needs to go somewhere, and that's one of the possibilities. And that it hasn't got completely lost in a middle school.
Helen?
Yeah, I agree. They need to be aware that the pathway is still a concept. It's still, wants to move forward, and everybody should cooperate to get it there.
Any words, Jane? Margot, anything to add? Nita? Andrew?
Yeah, at first I thought we should wait until we find out if it's actually 3 acres, but then I like Richard's idea of talking to Maria about this new educational pathway along the river. It could be good for, I think that was initially talked about a long time ago, but great place for kids to get access to the river, to find pollywogs or whatever.
That was in the original grant stuff, so it's still there.
Yeah.
Linda, you already said, we already know your position, I think. Anita,
I've changed my mind. Yeah, I really like the concept that it's a good time to approach Maria now that her school is built, and that humongous top priority on her desk has been accomplished. There may be a number of reasons why she's much more amenable, and to reiterate the educational aspect, I think would be really important. Is there any chance that a science teacher from the middle school could be brought on board to also lobby for the importance of that as part of the instruction? Didn't you have some science teachers interested?
I think so, but can you mute Anita? I like Richard's point, which is keep it sort of high level. And I haven't ever heard anything from Maria or the school board or anybody that's against the idea. It's not a concept of being against the idea. They're, you know, Will had said that they tried to not build an impervious, so much impervious surface, but they actually had to cut back from what they wanted to do. So it wasn't just us, there were other pieces of the puzzle too. So I just think going in, I like this idea of going in big picture and say, hey, just want to update you on the Riverwalk. We're still here, we're still working on it. Can you update us on the 3-acre thing? I mean, that's kind of like, that's a very tight summary is what I'm thinking. Margot.
So I have a question, and that is, well, first, just an optics thing. Like, I've heard 4 people say Maria School, and I'm like, I actually have a problem with that, not because of Maria, but that's a community school. But number 2 is, does Maria actually have any power over this? I mean, if there's less than 3 acres of impervious surface, like, does she actually have any clout in this? And I guess that's one of my questions. I can say I am pretty sure the approach of that she's very interested. And again, I have a friendship with Maria, but I don't know this stuff, that, you know, a nature walk that kids have access to would be highly desirable from many parties. I'm more concerned about, are we actually, like, where are we at from, like, get Maria out of the picture, and where is, like, the footprint of this? I don't disagree that this is a great conversation to have allies and build the army to move forward, but like, beyond, you know, the school, like, either it is or it isn't. And maybe I'm missing something.
You think, I'm trying to track on this, Margo. Are you suggesting that we talk to the principal of the school instead, or the select board?
No, I
or
think
what do you
the
mean?
engineers. It's either.
Oh yeah,
the
just
engineers-
go straight to the engineers. Yeah, that was my first inclination. And, but then I thought, you know, it's, Maria should know. I
mean,
don't know.
maybe.
Jane,
well, no,
Jane,
no, is
Jane,
Keith.
wait,
Keith is
I want
left.
Jane to say something.
Maybe this is a place to bring Keith back into the picture and say, okay, Keith, this is where we need to, you know, bring you into the picture. Tell us about, I don't know. But the
Process?
bottom line is, huh?
About process, you mean?
Right. Like, I mean, this isn't like, I mean, either we're taking the soft approach of like building, you know, all this, you know, beautifulness, or we're just saying, where are we at with the impervious surface? We just need a number.
Yeah, that's right. That's what I'm interested in right now. Yeah. Jane?
I think that's true, but I also think that a courtesy call on Maria would cause no harm, and it would certainly bring her into the picture. And Maria, I don't know Maria probably as well as Margot does, but I do know that Maria likes to feel like she's in charge. And so it's important to bring her in, because if you don't, it will backfire on you later.
Yeah.
And also, this isn't Keith's job anymore.
Okay.
Except I believe we get to hire him for like consulting, don't we?
Wait, he's working for yes, he's working for the MET building project as a consultant, but I don't know if you want to pay him. I'm sure he's not cheap. So
Yeah, well, that's, yeah, true.
this is Mike
I
B.
think-
Mike B is the new Keith. So.
Linda,
just have Maria watch this meeting.
Oh my God, this is really,
I mean,
makes me nervous.
Gives such an insight into our community. But I'm totally with Jane. I think a courtesy call and Richard, just, I mean, it's just a pathway.
That's right. I think that's what we're going to do. And candidly, and I know people are going to be watching this, Allison, this is where this process works out. I don't know any other way around it. And so that's what public meetings are about. I'm not embarrassed about anything that we're talking about.
And don't
So-
misunderstand me. This is really just about a data point. And you're right.
That's
I mean,
right.
This is also about keeping communication and building that whole infrastructure of
That's
people.
right. That's right. Mostly process. Okay, I'm going to move on. We've killed this. Thanks, Anita. I was watching your body language. Thank you for your input on that. Any update on Route 90?
Well, I posted, so we have a lot of things that we'll talk about. We're going to meet with Patrick Adams, DOT, and Linda can speak to that. But I've also, in the meantime, I've had a long conversation with Annette Nagel over at Georgia's River Land Trust. And
Good.
one of the things, this whole bugaboo, so Route 90, going up Route 90, we need to wait until we have a conversation with Patrick. And whether we're in a time of thinking a little more creatively, like we know that there are these things that happen on Route 90. We need to wait till that conversation. But also the whole passing over Route 90. And so I did post, if you look in the chat, and this is maybe here or another or someplace else in the agenda. I didn't realize that all of our undeveloped and conserved lands have been mapped by an organization. And one of the things Annette said, that there may be some traction. She said part of it is kind of pipe dream and part of it may actually be workable, is that we're looking, like all across the nation, they're looking at trying to connect habitats through these land bridges that are more for wildlife, but they can certainly be multi-use. And so I popped in there just the map of what's been mapped. And I didn't realize, but right near 17 and 90, there is a huge habitat area. And I'm sure Richard Remsen and Richard Arno, like a big chunk of that is their property that goes way back there. But just adding another piece into thinking about, when we think about Route 90 and the development, that maybe we need to expand it beyond just thinking about people, that this may be a way for us to think about habitat connection. And within this becomes thinking about, getting some other data that may come down the pike. But this is where, and she connected me to Kennebec, what was it, Kennebec, the Kennebec Estuary Land Trust, that they kind of started some of this conversation a couple of years ago, and they have just blossomed into looking at land bridges and looking at this whole connector trail system that we started with our summit last year. So the habitat linking may be a piece to add to our thinking around our Route 90 piece. And it may not work that we want to put it necessarily where, like pathways where we want them, but it may be more of a macro look at things.
It may be an angle to get across Route 90.
And it may be an angle to get across Route 90 in a way that we never thought we were thinking.
Considering we had a moose running around, 5-6 years ago, all the way over to Market Basket and down through the school and everything. We certainly have the animals.
Yeah,
Linda.
Linda.
Oh, I was going to say, you're right, Helen. I mean, the wildlife path, you know where they are in town, and you know how they come, and you know how far they move, and bears move very far, moose and deer, and they move, from Rockport into Camden. But that, wanted to mention that one bridge that in Utah. that
Oh,
is
yeah, I saw
around
that.
on Facebook. People keep sharing that one. But there is a webcam that shows how the animals have taken to it, and they are. So I really appreciate that, Margot. It sounds like one more thing to add to our repertoire of connected public safety, public health, and habitat. And there is a lot of land. Allison, last night, I think it was brought up at your meeting, something about how much land is already preserved in Camden, like 40% or something. Didn't that come up somehow?
Yeah, that was in
30-something.
the CDAC report about town needs. And
Yeah, that
yeah,
was
it's a huge number.
that was interesting, and that's something to incorporate into what you're talking about, Margot. So great, that's wonderful.
And we have a
Well,
huge
and then there are people that are willing to kind
piece
of
on
help
West
with
Street. It's
some of
just
that vision.
from Pascal all the way over to Route 1 is animals. So
Hang on. Two people talking at once. Helen, hold on. Margot, finish your thought and then it'll go to Helen. Margot.
Go ahead. Go on.
Helen, go ahead.
No, I was just saying that the strip actually belongs to,
Stuart?
no, Bondell Sales. Sue
Oh,
and that whole back area from Pascal to Route 1 is full of deer and rabbits and skunks and all sorts of animals. So,
yeah, so make sure, Margot, Linda, when you talk to Patrick, that you drop this.
Exactly.
Drop this. Yeah, that's a really good one. Somebody else was.
So that, just to add on to that one, that meeting is tentatively set for the 18th. So we'll Zoom
3 o'clock.
3:30.
3:30. Okay.
yeah,
But
3:30 because I'm not back from picking up kid and grandkid until 3.
January 18th, 3:30 p.m.
That's Monday, right?
I don't know.
Martin Luther King.
Martin Luther King Day.
Is Patrick working?
Well, he offered it up as a date, so we took it.
That's weird. Good. I think that was it. Did you want to share anything about your conversation with Annette other than, I mean, you've already shared a lot, but.
I don't know whether we want to look down further in the agenda, because it really had a lot to do with looking at some of the tools and things that the Georges River Land Trust is really different than like Coastal Mountain Land Trust, which I've learned that Coastal Mountain Land Trust, they purchase they buy their land, or they buy their easements. Whereas the whole Georges River Highland Trail really came, and it was looking at how, in some ways, do we work with landowners? Like, what are some of the incentives and things that the GRLT has worked with to bring landowners on board? And so I don't know if we want to talk about this now or another time.
Sure, you can flow into it. I think, sure, why not?
So it's really in some ways kind of unprecedented because the Highland Trail really came from older Dave Getchell, with the handshake and, landowners agreement. And it really had to start with some people being willing to say, okay, you can put a trail through my lower 40 acres where I'm not going to see too many people. But she said there are some tools, and some of these, it made me think of part of the, the Riverwalk, as well as we think forward to the possibility of any kind of bike trails, that there are some easements. And she said any municipality would have the same ability to offer the same kinds of financial tools as a land trust, just because of the nature of a nonprofit. But she mentioned that one thing is that you could, the purchasing of a trail corridor easement, which is different than the whole thing. So that's a tool. She also talked about, and she actually sent me or is sending me, that I didn't realize this, but Maine doesn't have liability laws. Like if somebody gets hurt on your property, they can't hold you liable for it. And so there's this whole understanding of how liability laws work. And so things that you can work with landowners to be able to kind of leverage some of that understanding that you don't have to worry about. If somebody gets hurt on your land, you're not responsible for it. And so there are some of these different pieces that can work together towards that.
Let me interject, Margot, just for a second, because it's almost a little misspoken what you said. I'm very familiar with this law. There are liability laws that protect land, that if someone is negligent on their land, then they can be sued. But that negligence has to be very profound. And there has never been a successful suit against a landowner or against a town for being negligent.
And that's key. That's actually a very key point, because the negligence would not have to, it would have to be almost to the point of intentional as opposed to negligent. So the other piece is, and she said that, you know, whether you're in town or, you know, it was really, you know, we got into this idea. And I think one of the things at some point we want to talk to the Kennebec Estuary Valley, because they started, not unlike with this summit we had last January, they put out a call, and now they have hundreds of people that are working and have one of the most vibrant, interconnected kind of pathway systems going, to the point where, you know, nobody had any idea that it would grow the way it did. But, you know, pathways now are bike paths and things that are completely interconnected. And when I talked about, you know, so Rockland dealing with this, you know, they're building their whole harbor walk, but then they've got their waterfront to wilderness. That's kind of this truncated, you know, a little bit municipality and a little bit land trust. And so we've got some models that are working, that as we want to grow this interconnectivity, we've got definitely some places to go and work with. And I don't know much more to share other than I do know, you know, we all know John Anders is now with Side Country as opposed to with GRL, the land trust, but that they will be hiring a new trails person. And Annette felt like they would be a really good person to bring on early in their stages of a partnership with us, to just be able to talk about some of those things.
Good. Did you have a chance to talk, or I would certainly bring in Sarah Austin if you.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
All right. Questions?
Oh, she did also mention, you know, that there is technical assistance from the National Park Service in terms of their rivers and trails and conservation program, which I know we've talked about in the past, but, you know, at some point it's, you know, the bigger macro vision. I feel like I see so much momentum happening in the mid-coast. You know, there may be the ability to see some real leverage points within that bigger picture that really fall in the Camden Rockport municipality piece.
Yeah, we received a 2-year grant from them. Julie Ispil is our contact there. And I just saw her not long ago, and retouched bases with her. We were a recipient of them.
Yeah.
And they're very knowledgeable, very nice people. Yep. Okay. I'm pausing. The pregnant pause. Everybody still here?
I'm here.
Yeah, I know. Okay, moving on. Anything? Oh yeah, bike awareness signage. You know, I shared with Dave St. Laurent the results of our conversation that we wanted a sign facing each way on Norwood. He goes, okay. I just explained to him what our rationale was. So he's gonna put those up next spring. Cool. Is that cool or what? Very cool. Very responsive. Also responsive, I got an email from BCM that they just delivered tons of high-vis vests and slap bands to the town office in Camden. Oh, great. Great, Andrew. You're already like, have you picked them all up? No, okay.
What's
Yeah,
this?
but Andrew was showing, that's LLB. No, that's not the kind. I think I got one of those here.
What are they for? What?
It's for
I have
when you're
some in my
walking,
car.
you put them on your wrist, you put them on your neck, you put them on your shoulder. It's high vis when you're out at night. It's one of those that reflective stuff. Yeah, I think this is one of them. No, this is another. It says it's heads up, you mean. Heads up. Yeah, that's the idea. The idea was to give these to people who, you know, like you have them in your back pocket or on your bike. And when you see somebody who's in twilight or walking without them, you say, hey, check this out. You might want to use this. People can see you.
That's a
So
great idea.
here's a question I have, which is that tonight, after my father calls me when I'm finishing up at 4 o'clock at school and says, Margot, have you looked at the news? And I said, no, Dad, why? And he goes, and he's 92. He goes, in my whole life, I never would have imagined this happening. I'm like, what? So I'm driving over to Quarry Hill to see what is he all upset about. Needless to say, we all know what he was upset about. And I'm coming out. First off, the whole section of sidewalk from Quarry Hill towards whatever that road is, but that little section is completely unplowed or everything. Right up to Quarry Hill is fine. And then I'm pulling out and I'm like totally frantic, like, what the hell is going on with this country? And I just about hit somebody who's walking by the old McDuck's, who's completely dressed in brown, walking, and it's 5 o'clock at night, and realized across the street were 3 other people moving, and that's exactly what, but the bottom line is he's walking where it's easy to walk. The other people are trying to walk through the snow on a sidewalk that has been completely unkept. And it just makes me realize, like, that corridor, just because I drive it so often, if no place else, has got to have safe pathways, bar none. I see at least a half a dozen people every time I go by there.
That's the Maritime Project.
I know, but
It's been in the works since 2012. Andrew.
Oh, no, I said it's coming. But no, I got a bunch of those from the BCM, and I keep them in my car on my steering wheel. So if I have to get out at night, I just take them off the wheel and slap one on my wrist. But handing them out to people, Margot, would be a great idea. If you see them, jump out, give them each one if we had them. It's a great
That
idea.
came out of the community forum, that the community needs to help the police because they're just, you know, so they're there, they're free, and just go, hey, check this, it's cool. Nita.
Is there any way that we can add awareness to drivers at this season to be extra aware of people? Because the sidewalks, as Andrew mentions, are at times rather not unnavigable with the ice. very unsafe. I just wanted to mention that I was telling Jeff today that I walked into town on Washington and coming back up the hill, walking across a sheet of ice that was worse than I thought it was. I landed, I fell on my face. And in fact, I landed on the wrist that I broke this time last year by landing on my wrist. So it's so the safest walking was in the street because of the salt that's used on the road dries it off. So there are going to be many other people running into that issue, and somehow signage, winter signage, something. Be aware of pedestrians in the street, because even those of us who are safety conscious run into that problem. I also wanted to mention with regard to the slap bracelets, I'm excited about picking some up and giving some away. Just before Christmas, I discovered that Once a Tree shop in Camden was selling slap bracelets that have LEDs built in. You push the button and it not only reflects, but it also has flashing LED light. And it was only $5. So if you're interested for yourself, if they still have them or if they got any more in stock, check it out. They're pretty cool. My nephew and niece were over the moon about theirs that I gave them for Christmas.
Linda, or was it Andrew? Sorry. Andrew, were you next?
No, I already went.
Linda.
Just back to the vests and the bands. I missed the first part. Where are they? And then how did we acquire, or how did you acquire them?
They were an outcome of the pedestrian safety forum.
Yeah.
Remember those? As a result of that, the forum concluded the best thing we can do is to make people more visible at night in terms of low-hanging fruit. And
Right.
BCM turned around and delivered they said hundreds of them to the town office.
So they're at the
Give away.
Camden town office?
Free.
Huh?
Free.
Right. I'm thinking, I think whoever had the idea that you jump out and you hand them to people is an excellent idea. And it's one of the cheapest, most safest methods of getting people to think, self-awareness of their own safety. So I'm wondering if we can get some more to put over in Rockport. And I don't know, I mean, if somebody could send me the contact, I'll put in an email to whoever gave them free, but I think it's a great idea.
Jan put in the chat to take a bunch of them over to the Y, which Jane is a wonderful idea.
Right, but I don't want to steal from Camden, for Rockport. I want to get some in Rockport. So wherever they came.
I'll send it to you, Linda. It's if you go to Jim Tassie, just send him an email. He'll get you to the person. It's actually not him. It's the guy. It's another guy. I'll send it to you, Linda.
I'd like that too. The other thing is, and this may seem silly, but where I see, where I get the most nervous around pedestrians is right there right around the subway. And I'm wondering, Steve Winchenbach, who now owns the old McDucks and Quarry Hill, is there a way to have a little kiosk that you could grab one of those, and put a few of them out there and people, or is that just a free for all? I don't know. But it almost seems like, oh, self-help. Oh, let me put this on, and almost like James.
We could, if the ground wasn't frozen, we could drive a dowel into the ground and wrap them around it, and people could just take one. But boy, would that be shiny when cars were going by. Oh my gosh.
Right.
Well, maybe Quarry Hill has some place that we give a bunch of them to their.
Those folks aren't going out at night.
I wouldn't be so sure about that. That's who I usually see pulling their little cart up and down the street going to the Hannaford.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
That's true.
Remember Kit Parker? Remember that whole conversation? Kit came and talked to us. Let's not forget Quarry Hill.
Okay. So that's vests and slap bracelets. Just an FYI, I did, moving on to Rockport bond funds. I did have a long conversation with Bill Post at the town manager in Rockport. And he said, thanks, this is what we're doing. We already have a contract for fixing the West Rockport sidewalk. It's going to be a little shorter than it was. That's part of the plan. That's totally okay with the citizens. That's what the recommendation was. They're going to look at a revision to the contract next spring when they're doing the work and see if they can't extend it to what the town wanted, what the community wanted, which was going up Gurney Street. That's what the community wanted. They wanted the sidewalk to wrap up Gurney for about 100 feet.
So you're talking about Rockville, not West Rockport. There's a difference, very big difference.
Oh, I blew it. I'm sorry, Helen. I meant Rockville.
Yes.
I was envisioning Rockville. So this is the old, what is it called? The old
Rockland Road.
Old Rockland Road.
Yeah.
I was thinking Old County Road, but it's Old Rockland Road, where it intersects with Gurney. That's the section that they're redoing. The contract's already done. It's set up for next year, and they're looking to modify it to add a section to go up Gurney. And I'm gonna send him another note on that to remind him that those extra funds have been made available through the bonds, so he knows that. So he's heard us, and I've gone back and forth with him on a number of things on it. So that's good. That's good. So our little bit of advocation helped there as well.
Yeah, quick note, if I could interject. The department heads are putting together their budgets. So if there's anything that Pathways wants me to talk to the budget about, it's probably going to be another 3 weeks or so before we start seeing that. So we've got it probably at the next meeting, we could get some ideas of what the Pathways Committee wants the budget for 2021-22 to look like.
The only thing that jumps to mind right now was the RTP, but we were going to do gifts in kind in terms of labor on that, which would be related to Aldermere, which is related to timing and things like that. But I think we're okay on that.
Well,
Linda, did you have something?
Well, when we
I'm sorry, Linda?
Well, if Helen wants to finish her thought, I don't want to jump in.
Okay, I just wonder, will we know about the maritime farm bids, say, what's the due date back for those? Because it needs to be before the budget, because I'm going to have to push to put anything in it. Every year they want to stop putting things in or pull it out.
That's right.
No way, Helen. There is just no frickin' way.
Okay,
I figured that would be 2 or 3 months out at least.
I will hold them as tight as I can.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for bringing that up as well. Does anybody else, Linda, you had?
Yeah, I just wanted to go back to the Rockville piece and going up Gurney Street. The Rockville, that is the exact area of the sidewalk. That's my pizza being done. That stretch of sidewalk where when we were doing the assessment of the sidewalks probably 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, and I spoke to some people in Rockville, that's the section of the old sidewalk that has been covered up by sand and grass has reclaimed it. The importance of that area is that the Rockville Community Chapel, which has lots of community events, is right there. So it's
They're doing that. They're doing that.
Right.
They're redoing that.
It's a natural place to put that, for that sidewalk to be repaired, but also for us to advocate for it to extend along that whole community section of Rockville. So Helen, I would say something about that, for the budget.
Yeah, it's not in the contract. I asked about that. That's not in the contract.
Right.
I also asked, Linda, you'll love this. I said, it's just a natural place for an esplanade. That went over like a lead balloon.
With Mike?
We can certainly ask in the budget to at least get an estimate all the way out along there, because you're right. People walk in the street, and part of that's because the sidewalk's full of crap and poison ivy.
And it's about this wide.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I actually haven't seen the engineering drawings. I bet they're available somewhere. I think it's too late for that one.
Well, Mike should,
Unbelievable.
or did Will Gartley do them? Or did Mike, does Mike have them?
I don't know. Bill just mentioned that they're done. Yeah. All right. I'll see if I can find that. Yeah, let's see exactly. Hang on. Let me see. I made some notes on this. He said they're cutting it on the upper end. I don't know what that means, how far they're cutting it, Linda. But I know that it's shorter than where the existing one is. Anita?
Right, but if we ask for that in the budget, maybe we just throw it out there. Continue the good work that they've started in Rockville.
It'd be better than not doing so if you brought up with Audra that we're heading into another budget cycle and you know, this Washington Street sidewalk extension plus Maritime Farm thing has been dragging on for so long. Is there any way that they can light a fire under whoever it is, whether it's Bill Kelly or whoever, to get those I's dotted and get this moving along within this budget cycle and not lose another year?
Fair enough.
It's just been going on way too long, and things don't happen without fires being lit. And it's interesting because when I spoke about, I can't even remember, something related to energy, I was speaking to Jeremy saying, I know your plate is full and so you don't want to deal with this efficiency main, blah, blah, blah. And he said, well, actually that's been discussed for so long that that's actually, you know, something that we want to have on our plates, basically is what he said. So it's bringing new stuff and saying, oh, how about this new project our committee thought of that is causing more of a problem, I think, and more resistance than things that have been going for a long time. And I would certainly say that this combined path thing has been going for way too long. And there is a definite concern about losing funding on that. So time to bring it up again. And Allison, what are your thoughts on that?
I could check in. I mean, there was a lot that you said there. I don't see how this relates to the Efficiency Camden project at all.
No, I think what she's saying is,
but I do, yeah, the town we have a lot on our plate, and I'm not exactly sure if this is one of those things where a fire, you know, it being lit or knocking on the door is what's needed or not, but I can certainly inquire. Somebody
just to remind you, I began by saying that I did talk to Jeremy about this. And he said that, remember, this was about the locally administrated project and combining it and moving it forward. So Jeremy knows. And he said he wanted to meet with Audra about it. So in a couple of weeks, I'm going to follow up and ask him again. And Anita, I will send a quick note about the budget cycle. I've incorporated that as well. But there's just no frickin' way to go out and get bids and find out what the status is and whether more money is needed. There is just no way. To go out for bid takes 2 months. You got to give them enough time to respond. And even to put the bids together, it's just miles away. It's not like weeks away. It's just not going to happen, no matter what I do. But the point is taken. It just goes on and on. Linda?
Just a quick point to knowing that Allison, what you all discussed last night, and I fully understand and fully respect how arduous it gets for town staff to listen to committees. And I know Rockport has the same issue, but maybe it makes sense for the Pathways Committee to just outline for both towns sort of the thing at the beginning now of the budget cycle, what we're hoping to see for this year, 2021. Just a really simple 3 points, 3 bullets.
Yeah, pathways isn't considered like a problem for town staff. It's not, it's more, these are all, there's no town staff person here that's, having to listen to every single word. And I think that is helpful. And there's a lot of stuff really with just, sidewalks. And I think there's a lot more willingness to actually do some things. And so definitely it makes sense I was actually just talking with Dave St. Laurent today about, things like even the sidewalk by Stop and Go and, from Quarry Hill down. And, he was saying we will solve that problem. Like, give me in 5 years, that will be solved. And so things like that, I think it's great to shoot for the stars in Camden, at least, and say, these are some things we would want to see in the upcoming budget cycle. I do think that makes sense.
And Allison, I did send you that work plan just to remind you. I think I emailed it as an attachment, as a prep to the meeting. If you take a look at it, Bob did a good job, Bob Falciani, and asked each committee to send their top priorities on their work plan, Linda. And that's an old top priority, and it needs to be redone. And it's totally easy. It's the same. It's the same items that we had up there on the top. And I'll happily go through it and try to go, so what can we reasonably do next in 2021?
So then that's great, because
between the priorities for the Pathways Committee and like in terms of what to be working on and budget requests.
Say that again, Allison. I didn't catch the beginning.
There's a difference between like what committees are working on and priorities for what they want to be dedicating their energy to, and priorities for funding for the next budget cycle. Not all of the things that you guys are going to continue to work on in the background have any real funding requests associated with them. So, but now is the time to be saying, hey, why don't we put in $50,000 for blah, blah, blah. Or, wanting to make sure you have matching funds available or whatever makes sense.
And Camden's a lot more responsive right now, I think, than Rockport. So I guess I'm really talking about Rockport at this point. Camden's got its act together, but maybe we just replicate, Jeff, what you're talking about for Camden, for Rockport, and then Helen has a piece of paper to work with when she's on the budget committee.
Right. Thanks, Linda. Perfect. Good suggestion. And just for clarity, the work plan for Camden doesn't say anything about Rockport and vice versa. Allison?
There may be times when it would be helpful for the select board to, I don't know, for me to talk to Denise or we have started to establish relationships with the other boards, and if there are things that we can say together, Camden's going to put a little bit of money towards this goal, and do you think you could do that too in Rockport? Or
I say that I try to leverage that to each board if I can do it. Yeah. The main one is the Maritime Farms one. That's the one that's been affecting the budgets because we keep asking for more money. And that feels very awkward. Feels like we're not in control of the project, that we don't know what's going on. It's awful. All right. Thank you. Good input. I also checked in with I can't remember his name, but the guy on the engineering team for the downtown drainage project. in Camden. I asked him whether there was anything that they have discovered to date that would affect anything on the plans related to sidewalks. And he said no. That's great. So the way it's drawn on the plans, which are on the town website, are the way they are still moving forward. Coming to the end of the list here. I am just poking Anita to work on the AARP application. Property owner incentives we already talked about. Thank you, Margot. Which was kind of neat news, but it's sort of the same old news, which is what's the value of the property? And those trail corridors, it's going to be like $75 a year tax break. It's very little. The smaller the piece of land, the less. I want a multiplier, but you know.
One thing I should add is Annette said, don't forget that people get to take a tax benefit, not just in that corridor, but if, for instance, they sell their land and it's at a lower price, there's tax benefits in many ways. And it's not just, don't think of it in just this one way. That it's like, if you have an easement, you also get to take a loss of value, and there's other tax pieces in there as well. So there's a whole structure that would be worth talking about if the need ever came to be.
I would love Annette to sell me on that. I listened to you, Margot, but I'm not sold.
Well, I haven't gone through it, so I'm not,
Yeah.
you know, I don't have the same, I need to be personally involved to understand fully is the way it works for me.
Annette used to live down on near you, Allison, on Washington. Does she still live there? I mean, on Mechanic? She used to live down Robin's house, the next one down, I think.
No, I think she's been in Rockland for years.
Oh, okay. All right. Thinking I could just pop over there or something. I can call her. She can sell me that way. I didn't do any work. Linda, did you do any? Linda?
Yes, boss.
Yeah. Did you? I didn't work at all on the PR, the pathways education part.
No.
But I think January I'm going to have time. December was awful.
Well, let's talk about it. Okay.
Yeah. All right. You're on. That was my main input.
But how about that list for Helen too, for the budget committee? How are we going to do that one for Rockport?
I'll draft it up.
Okay.
And I'll share it with you guys. That won't take me long.
Helen, when does the budget committee start meeting?
3 weeks, you said.
Oh, 3 weeks. Okay.
Usually February. Sometimes we start having meetings. Like I said, the department heads are already preparing their budgets, and I believe Bill is looking through them in January, and we'll start seeing something in February. We don't get down and dirty until probably March.
That's pretty much the schedule for Camden as well. Jeff, can't we just put in a generic request for an X amount of money to make sure that Audra continues to put money aside for the Washington Street Maritime Farm project match? I mean, they need to put something in. It's going to happen. So she needs to just think, let's add something to the budget for that. Make sure she's doing that.
Two things. One is my understanding is there's $5,000 and a standing $5,000 that gets put in every year for a matching grant, small. My also understanding is that Camden put in like $40,000 or $60,000 over the last couple of years for the matching grant required for MDOT. If the project goes over budget, when MDOT goes out for bid, we've got a lot more issues than just Camden. We've got MDOT having to come up with the money. and Rockport too with their matching. And there's no way, you can't just say, yeah, just put another $20,000 in, assuming it's going to be over.
Yeah.
They're not going to say, oh yeah, sure, we'll just do that. And
Yeah, we gotta
because we
put-
have that extra money.
Yeah.
Everybody, this cycle, the budget, with the reduced, I don't know, I would think the taxes are going to go down and expenses are up, but I'm just guessing.
Well, it's my understanding, and this is just hearsay, second or third hand, is that they have not spent as much money as they had predicted because they're shut down with COVID. But they've also cut back a lot of projects because of COVID. They couldn't bring people in, they couldn't get things done. So who knows what state the budget is actually in and what's there and what's going to be carried over.
Helen, is they Rockport or is they MDOT?
They is Rockport. And like I said, it's just hearsay that I've heard murmurs of in various informal conversations.
So Anita, are you suggesting that we ask for more money without a specific
I'm suggesting a discussion with Audra regarding, she's very aware of this project and the way it is running over budget. When the proposals come in, she knows it's coming along the pike. Just say, what do you think would be a wise amount of money to put aside this year for this project, knowing that these bids come in very high? Do we need to put in a chunk of money? Do we need to put in, what should we put into the budget this year for that project? It's a simple question. Audra will have a good idea.
Okay, so that'll be replicated with Bill Post too. It's the same issue. That's going to be tough, but I'll ask. Anything else? Open table. I'm at the end of my list.
I had question.
Andrew.
I'm not a note taker, minutes, or agenda generator, but I'm wondering if it would be more helpful if we could get these agendas and minutes from the last meeting, sooner instead of the day before, 2 days before. I love the agendas. I love the minutes, but I don't know, does it take a month? Just asking.
I think it's a fair question.
Anybody else?
I will, I'd love somebody else to help. I've been doing this for a hell of a long time. That would, that's not an excuse. You're right. It takes the same amount of time whether I do it now or in 3 weeks. I will say that I will wait for the agenda until the week before because things change. But there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to put out the minutes sooner, because that sort of serves as a reminder of what people are committing to also.
Yeah, I mean, your work is highly appreciated, of course. But yeah, it's kind of a reminder, wakes me up, oh, got a meeting coming up. Maybe I can go do something about it. Yeah,
all right, I'll do it.
Sorry,
The other thing, I don't know if it has to live within the town, facilities, but it would be great if we had like an archive in a Google Drive or something so that there's that reference, and I would be happy to do that, but it's.
Allison?
I don't know what's
I think that exists. That exists. Doesn't that exist online? Minutes? I know the select board
Remember, we
minutes
have
are.
Rockport and we have Camden.
I know, but it would be the same because we only have one set of minutes. So if it lived on Camden, it would be there. But the select board has minutes. I haven't ever looked. Janice has all our minutes. I do know that.
Yeah, we certainly have record of all the minutes.
Yeah, I'll ask Janice. No problem.
Probably all on the website, isn't it?
Well,
that's what I was saying. I'm surprised it's not because the select board minutes are all there, and you can go to the town committees. It may not be there. And if it's on the Camden website, we could just hyperlink it from the Rockport one, which would be easier than them
That's fine.
archiving it on Rockport too.
Okay.
So that would be a solution there. But instead of starting with Diane, let me start with Janice.
They really should be on both websites, you know.
Archived or?
I don't think that's too much to ask. But I sympathize because taking minutes is a big, huge load, Jeff. And if you want to delegate every now and then, say, hey, can somebody else take the minutes? I mean, there's no point. We should all be able to pitch in and take some minutes now and then. Or if that's Anita who's taking the minutes, I don't know who's, oh, Anita's taking the minutes. Yeah. So that's a huge load. So
We
Anita,
both do it. We both try to complement each other. Yeah.
Mhm. You'd have to get used to other ways of minute takers.
Lenny did them for a long time.
Yeah.
Anita wants to talk.
I know.
I wanted to mention that I just looked online, and the minutes are posted online through September 2nd of last year. So, send them along to her and to Janice, and she'll post them. You can request that she post what you already sent her.
You just said they're posted. Why should I send them along to her to have?
Well, if you have October, November, December minutes in her lap, you can ask her to post those, but they're posted through September 2nd.
Okay. Anything else? Thank you, Andrew. Yeah, you've said enough, Jane.
Thank you, Jeff.
You're welcome. All right, see you all later. You can go back and watch the news and see if the Capitol's back still
I'll
under
tell you, a
siege.
lot of stuff has happened, but you guys can turn on your own news and.
Are we
it's-
still under siege? Is it still under siege?
Well, somebody died. The woman died.
The woman died.
Yep, and they're pushing people out, and they've locked Trump's Twitter account. I mean, all kinds of things are happening right now.
Aren't they arresting
Oh,
them?
and
Isn't this highly illegal? I mean, to break into
You
the
can't,
Capitol,
yeah.
And they're
lock them up.
they're going to reconvene at 8 p.m. So I got to hop over to the Rockport ZBA before I hop back to Congress.
By the way, that's where Jeff Hamilton is. That's why he couldn't come tonight.
I bet,
He's on he was
Yeah.
at the-
So there was a photograph of somebody sitting at Nancy Pelosi's desk with his feet up on the table.
Yeah.
Up on her desk. That's pathetic. Unbelievable. I was telling Jeff, I hate to say it, but if any of those people were black, they'd be dead by now. Just because that's the way our country is.
Yeah.
If they were
Crazy.
black, they would have been shot. I guarantee you. It's
Yeah.
so maddening, but you just know it's true.
Thanks, you guys.
Yep. Bye.
Hi, Helen.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody. Thanks, Allison, for